minutes?
Motion to approve?
I have a motion. Do I have a second? A second. Any discussion? Any corrections, changes? In favor of approving the motion, say yes.
Aye.
I don't do aye. I say yes. All in favor, say yes. Opposed, say no. That's a vote. The next minute up, the minutes up are the October 30th minutes that Sherry's also put on the website. I'll entertain a motion to accept these minutes.
Motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Corrections, additions? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. It's a vote. And just remember, just sign it and pass it around. Next up, we'll take you, Richard, so you can come and go. Do our other stuff later.
Thank you for having me this evening.
So we're looking to see where you're at.
Well, school committee met a week ago, Wednesday, on December 13th. And I think the one thing that is fairly well determined is that they would prefer to wait until their February 14th meeting to finalize a number for the FY19 budget request. And I think the key there is utilizing the time in between now and then to figure out what the right strategy is going to be going forward in terms of how much to ask for, how the duration of the potential for up to 2.5 override in terms of its support. One of the keys that for the district right now is we have two large things that are unknown. Our transportation contract is up at the end of this fiscal year, so that's going out to bid. Secondly, our health insurance, because of the plan year being September through August, we don't have good rate-setting information just yet, and that will become, the information will become clearer in February for us. So that's what they've talked about, and based on that February 14th date for the school committee to kind of finalize its thoughts, the timeline discussed would be that by the end of February, the boards of selectmen in both towns would look to approve the ballot question, and then for the election to occur, based on the timeline involved with Mass General Law, sometime in late March or early April.
Which puts it only a month before our normal ballot, right?
Yes, yep. But I think by doing it then, what it does allow is for another possible election if the first one was unsuccessful before the close of the fiscal year.
Okay. So the numbers on that, you had given us that chart, future budget numbers there. So you're
Yeah,
saying that,
and, as the committee is aware, when you start to take a look at, just the maintenance costs of the district, they are substantial numbers in terms of where our budget increases have been the last decade or so. When you factor in growth there, adding new staff, securing new, taking care of longstanding issues in the schools, the number starts to get really big, and that's where school committee really is having an internal debate, I think, and going out and discussing it with citizens in both towns. The numbers range between at the last meeting that we talked about a total of $5.5 million down to $4.3 million, and again, those are substantial increases. In the two towns, especially when you take a look at the tax base that the Prop 2.
I'm sorry, is that five, you said 5.3 to something, is that over what time frame?
Over 3 years.
Over 3 years, as opposed to the 5 that was in those reports, everything was stretched out over 5.
Yeah, the initial work that we did with Mark Abrams, and where we met with both towns and reviewed that was a 5-year projection, absolutely right. And we've tried to narrow that down a little bit. And school committee still debating as to whether or not a 3-year strategy is the right strategy or not. at something a little smaller, once the numbers are a little more concrete, because the ultimate goal here is to be successful, you know, for fiscal 19 as well as beyond. But if the fear is if you make the number too large, you scare too many people off. Of course, the other fear is if you don't make the number large enough, it's insufficient and you're going back to the well each and every year. So it is going to continue to be a discussion with school committee about how to find that right comfort level. that right
Are you talking about, if it's now gonna be over 3 years, you're talking about an override each year for the next 3 years? Or have they discussed one time, 3 questions?
They've discussed both options, taking a look at both options, you know, going for the big number right up front, going for a little bit over the course each and every year. And I think it really, it's difficult, because this is, I think, one of the first times that there's been this type of long-range planning involved with the district and, you know, looking at our budget resources. And the fact that both towns are really, you know, up against it in terms of where they're at with available revenues, and where, you know, our funding is. It's getting that right number, getting that Goldilocks zone, if you will, is gonna be, you know, difficult.
On the chart, on that chart you had given us, you had a projection A and a projection B, and it sounds like you believe it's gonna be more projection A type of numbers, which gets your 2.7 million that first year, but you're still $500,000 under budget, according to this.
Yeah, and again, that's because we're using projection for numbers for our two of our largest areas of the budget. Health insurance is a $6 million item for the region. So if we were to look at a 10% increase, that's $600,000. A 5% increase is $300,000. That's a lot of, that swing is a lot of money. So having more information there is critical. Our big yellow regular transportation contract is basically $2.8 million. Again, you're talking about a lot of money based on what the potential increase might be with a bid. So I think having those pieces of information will help quantify what FY19 looks like, and then based on that, projections become a little bit easier for FY20 and beyond.
Everybody else got some questions they want to ask? At this point? Okay. One of the things as I was looking over, I went back through that Abrams thing and noticed that on his charts, he would not only have the increase that he thought was needed, but also the minimum, the Charlton minimum number would go up consistently year after year. Is that part of this kind of an increase, or does that also go up at the same time, and we're gonna have to be looking at funding that too?
No, both towns are currently over the minimum required. So those increases, I think, are lower than our budget increases, in the projections at least, so.
Right, but they were still going up like 120 or 130,000 a year, so that's gonna be on top of whatever this override is for.
No, our budget request will take those numbers
that
into account.
into account. Okay. All right, that's all the questions I had. Anybody else got anything you wanna add? Anything you'd like to add?
As I said, you know, there are gonna be continued conversations and continued meetings up through February 14th. As I said, I think this is a unique time and place for the district and the two towns. The need for the additional revenue, I think, is pretty clear. I think it's been pretty clear for a while. I've heard more than once, you know, there's always been talk about an override, and I know that there was an unsuccessful campaign here in Charlton 3 or 4 years ago. And same in Dudley, I think that was successful for a small amount. But I think this is the big time, the first time that really large numbers and really, you know, numbers to sustain growth in the district have been talked about. So school committee is trying to measure twice before it cuts, so to speak, to use the woodworking analogy.
Should I make an assumption you're working on several different budgets at the same time? You've gotta have a contingency budget.
I'm just glad that we have the tools of Excel to do budgets in nowadays as opposed to pen and
Okay.
paper.
Okay.
It's it's a lot easier.
All right.
With
Yes.
that, I'm curious, you put your budget together with the numbers of, what you would get, or what you would be asking for if it was a minimum, versus the override. Is that something that you will share with the finance committee and the board of selectmen, so they can see where, and, because I think if you're going to be doing an override, now is the time to be talking about why you're doing the override versus we need more money, and transfer it from, we just need more money to, we need more teachers, we need this, and we need that. So have you put together any strategy that kind of takes the money into what would actually be happening with the expansion?
Yeah, we, I think, have a good plan for what growth might look like. That dovetails with our current strategic plan and the strategic plan that's in progress. So, that's obviously the driver of the budget, as it should be. In terms of the minimum, I'm not sure what you're talking about there.
What I've seen towns do before is when they're preparing to ask for an override, they'll do their budget as normal, and then they'll do, here's what we'll be doing if the budget, if the override, or if the additional funding is approved.
Yes, yeah, that.
Kind of side-by-side budget,
Yeah,
which people
we're-
can actually see.
Right, that would help in marketing it.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
At what point would that be possible to get in a public venue?
I think the February 14th date is the appropriate date.
earliest?
I can certainly, let the school committee and Mr. Deston know, that you guys might like to try to take a look at those numbers earlier.
Yeah, because it looks like some of the items that were outlined here are new items, all right? Versus just an increase in, and I think that's what we'd like to see on the comparison budget.
And I think that's where school committee's still going back and forth, what's the appropriate thing to ask for? Is the appropriate thing to ask for 6 new positions in the first year, get them funded and be done with it? Is it more appropriate to spread those new expenses out over the course of multiple years? If you do that, are you constrained by Mass General Law and how you can structure the question, as we talked about at the school committee meeting last week? So there is still a lot of questions that school committee is trying to work through and come up with the best possible strategy.
Is there any input the board of selectmen and finance committee can give to you as you're doing that deliberation, or is that more or less an internal, looking at your systems?
I think we've had a very cooperative relationship with the finance committee and the board of selectmen in both towns, so I don't think input would be ignored or devalued.
I will say personally, I'm a little disappointed you're gonna wait till February 14th, because it just leaves such a short window in order to get this done. I mean, we'd always talked about a February, maybe early March things, but if this is the way you guys wanna proceed, that's the way we'll go.
I think school committee prefers to have more certainty than less. And by waiting until the governor's budget is released, until we have a transportation bid, until we have a realistic health insurance potential rate increase, that's the timeline, unfortunately.
Okay. Anything else? We all set? Richard, thank you very
Thank
much
you
for
very
coming
much.
tonight. Appreciate your time.
I appreciate you having me, and I am sure it's not the last time I will be here in the upcoming months.
Is there any plans for another joint meeting that you did with the school committee, board of selectmen and finance committee?
I can certainly let everybody know that might be a good thing to have prior to, maybe even prior to that February date. And that might provide an
That would be
opportunity
helpful.
to give an update.
There's no time for deliberation if you wait until after that 14th date, because my impression of being at the meeting was that they were going to basically make the decision and send it to the boards and ask for them to vote it as the ballot question, and if so, then there's no time for them to have found out where you guys think you're going.
Yeah, but I do think that we endeavor to keep everybody informed as to what the progress steps are. And I'm sure that the committee's gonna be having, discussions about this throughout January, even though it won't have final numbers. All right?
Okay,
Thank you very
thanks,
much.
Richard.
Thank you.
All right, we've got two reserve fund transfer requests in front of us. First one is police. Robin, if you wanna,
Come on up.
how we doing, chief?
Hi, nice to see everybody.
I'm still not used to sitting on this side of the table.
Hey, no.
Okay, so you've probably heard that there's been quite a bit of conversation about traffic impacts. We've had some serious accidents. The Board of Selectmen established a traffic advisory committee, which now we have housed in the police department. They had their first meeting today.
Yes.
When the Board of Selectmen they did goals and objectives with the fire chief and the police chief. And during the police chief discussion, the conversation about traffic and how we mitigate it, and we really need to do a lot regarding that. Especially given with Treehouse, we've had some serious issues that the police department has been trying to work with Mass DOT in trying to mitigate some of those. What we found is that we have an area of lacking. The Board of Selectmen voted to approve a traffic police officer. So tonight we're coming to you asking for funding for the 19th officer. And you'll see in here that it is from now until June with kind of a commitment and an agreement that will be increased.
Excuse me,
chief is-
I'm assuming that's June 30th of 2018.
Yes, did I go backwards?
It says 17 on it.
Yep, 18, thank you. So, that's what happens when you do copy and paste. So the chief is here to answer questions. He has a vision. I think it's a really good one. He's looked in his budget to find monies to be able to supplement. He's not coming here he's got skin in the game. He's not just coming asking for more. So I think what I'd like to do is to turn over him. First, if I can just go through this. The new request is for $23,683. The present balance, which is from 11/14/17, that was the last monthly reconciliation. Certainly, we've had payroll come out of that. What I will just tell you about the present balance is that they're pretty much on target for where they are in this time of year. So we haven't seen any anomalies at this point. So their percentages tracking along with the other departments in how much they've spent in their salary. So, Chief?
Yeah, there's a need. Our budget's been either cut or flat 4 years. Our call volume in 10 years has gone up 260%, yet we have one less guy than we did 10 years ago. And we just don't have any other room. I did propose that we eliminate a department assistant position to help pay for this, now that we have a full-time person that is doing both jobs. We had some problems in the past, but we've rectified that problem. So this is the amount that I'm comfortable that we can get by to get this job done.
You'll also see in your packet, what you have attached is the memo from the chief regarding the need, the cost, what he's asking for now. He talks about eliminating the part-time position and moving those monies, which is $4,000 towards this. The next page, you have traffic enforcement officer job description. These are the assigned duties. But what we would be doing is adding another officer, and then the chief would decide which officer would actually be acting as the traffic officer.
So
You wanna talk-
you're funding a position, not a person,
Yes.
Well,
right?
we're funding
No,
a position.
I know, we're
but-
hiring somebody, Robin, but I'm saying, we're not hiring a traffic person that's only gonna do traffic for the remainder of his time with the force.
No, we're funding a position to get us to 19, and my vision of it is that it will be an assignment of sorts. But that person would be dedicated just to traffic and, enforcement and managing the flow of traffic and the problems that we've had on Route 20. So it wouldn't be the same person for the rest of his career, no. It would certainly be somebody who would, we have guys that like to do that kind of motor vehicle thing. And as long as they perform and show me that they're working out there, then they can stay in the position. But it would be an assigned position, so I would have the right to assign or unassign at any time.
And the monies that we've received from our past motor vehicles
Yeah, so,
violations?
so I did a 3-year, so when we write traffic tickets, we get half of the revenue comes back to the town, of whatever that amount is. May I approach the?
Yes. Yeah. This isn't a court.
So we did 3 years, and if you'll see, this is money that comes back into the general fund from, writing speeding tickets and other, civil motor vehicle infractions. So last year, the year before, the year before that, you'll see that 51,000 last year, 59,000 the year before, and 51 again the year before that. So this is without us being proactive. This is just the stuff that we run into. Certainly, we're not in the revenue generating business, but I believe that if you have a full-time person who is out there doing traffic enforcement, that it'll be revenue neutral. That money will come back to the general fund, and it will make the town safer.
If you have to assign somebody to traffic duty, you have to send them up to Treehouse. Does that leave you short-staffed for your routines?
Yes, the problem that we have, and again, I can show you stats and figures. Again, if you look at 10-year picture, we've gone up almost 270% in call volume. Yet we're one officer less now than we were 10 years ago. So we have a senior department, a lot of them have 7 weeks vacation, they have holidays and personal days, and then they do required training that the state mandates a week, 2 days of firearms a year. So when you're giving people all that time off and sick days and everything else, most of the time we're running 2 people, 2 patrols, a north and a south, for 44 square miles and several hundred miles of roads. So when we get tied up with an accident there, usually it takes 2 people. One person's got to block the road and do traffic while the other person books the accident. There's nobody else to respond unless you're calling the state police or you're calling another town. So we're behind. The Department of Justice says we should have 1.8 per 1,000. So we should actually have a force of 23 people. We have 18. So I know money is tough, but this position, I really believe, is not only necessary to the selectmen thing, but I'm constantly sending people to close that entrance at Treehouse because of the sheer volume. They were supposed to get 300 cars a day when the engineering plan came into the town. They get 3,000 every day that they're open. You have this marijuana dispensary that's going in down at the bottom of the hill. They say 150 cars a day. I'm sorry if I'm skeptical. I'm sorry that I just don't believe that. So the traffic problem on 20 are getting worse. If you've ever driven it in the afternoon, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at any point in time, either direction. And so what this does is this keeps the patrols on either side of town to be in the neighborhoods and answer calls, and this person would answer accidents and do enforcement as time would permit.
Do we have a vehicle for this person? Is there a?
I can use one of the existing vehicles, but I will tell you at some point in time, when I come back next year for budget and we'll re-examine these numbers that I just gave you, that I may be asking for a vehicle with this person as well. Because, obviously, that vehicle's gonna get run, for a full shift every day like the other ones, so.
Okay.
But I do have a vehicle that I can use for now, because
Now through the end of
cruisers are expensive. They're about 40, an Interceptor is almost 47,000 fully equipped, so, but we were lucky that the town gave us, in capital, they gave us 3 vehicles this year, so we'll be in good shape for this year.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Chief, I have a couple of questions. First of all, I'm fully supportive of adding to the staff where necessary, but, when Treehouse approached the town, Treehouse made certain commitments and promises, and they made some certain, hey, here's our engineering plan, to your point, 300 cars a day. Have we, I know Mr. McGrath is here, have we gone back to Treehouse and said, you must have a detail there? And if not, why not?
Yeah, well, again, I was appointed chief October 2nd, so a lot of this I inherited.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. And so I've been asked to instantly solve a problem that took others years to create. So we have an agreement, we have a very good working relationship with Treehouse, and they've been very cooperative. And I want everybody to understand that we don't have an issue with Treehouse Brewing.
Yep, oh, believe me.
You know, they're,
Great to the
and
town.
anything that we've asked of them. The problem is just the sheer volume, and I don't know, has anybody anticipated that it would be that large? But when people leave that, and we have a situation where we have a poor line of sight, so we're forcing cars to go to the right, and then a lot of cars want to go to 84 because they're coming from Pennsylvania and Virginia and everywhere else. So they want to take a U-turn or go into the parking lots kind of thing. So, so they have staff details, sometimes two, if necessary, and if they see things are going awry, they've called us. The manager was into the department yesterday and the day before in the town hall. We're working to get signs approved. We're gonna be going in front of the board. Tomorrow, they're also putting signs on either side of the entrance, 1,000 feet and a half a mile, to warn people of the traffic and that kind of thing. So, and that's, Treehouse is paying for all of that. So they've been very cooperative, and, you know, but at some point, you can't have an officer managing traffic in the parking lot and in the driveway, and then have that same person on Route 20 or across the street, you know, trying to prevent all of these other things that are going on. So it really kind of falls on us, and you know, and of course, we're paying overtime for that, and our overtime budget is already taxed.
Right, yeah, so my general concern, you know, just to make a statement, my general concern is they've been a great neighbor, and we want them to continue to be successful, but putting this burden on the town is unfair to the town. And it's, you know, just give me 1 second, John, I think it's their, you know, we need to solve it collectively, but I would also be looking to the state to help, because Mass DOT gave them that curb cut.
So if I can say something, because I want to be clear that we're not coming here because Treehouse is here. If you look at my memo, there's several other issues that are going on. It's kind of like we're at a perfect storm right now. As you know, we are going to be installing over 10 miles of water, new water lines. That's going to take a lot to manage for details, for road detours. Somebody's got to be paying attention to that and assisting, working in between with the police and highway. So that person would be doing that as well.
So,
And on
can I
top
just
of
stop
that,
you on that one? If you have multiple people doing that job, how's one person gonna coordinate that?
well, that's the
Well-
next piece, which is the details have been a serious issue, as you know, going back years. And the past chief was trying to rectify it. Max has done a great job of trying to work on that. They've done a lot of the collections, but one of the issues has also been about kind of oversight and bringing that all into one. So basically, what we're looking at is bringing several areas into one person that has the assignment and responsibility to be looking at police details, schedules, whatever's going on out there in the traffic. So it's not just Treehouse, but we're growing. We've got additional businesses going. We have, the Board of Selectmen looked at one last night that they were questioning on how that's going to impact Route 20 and is this line of sight. And so there's just a lot going on in the town regarding traffic.
So respectfully, again, we're either hiring a person to do this role, or we're gonna dole it out to 19 people, and if we dole it out to 19 people, I don't, this would be the 19th.
This would be the 19th.
No,
This would be the 19th, so then I don't
so
understand the
no.
story, sorry.
No, let me, maybe I wasn't clear. So, when I'm gonna hire a person, and then I'm going to assign a specific person solely to do this function, the job description that I've provided to you. So that this person isn't gonna be a patrol person, he's not going to be, you know, doing, the normal duties that the other 18 do. This person will specifically be doing traffic enforcement, traffic management, all of these duties that I've listed here. He's not gonna be, if we're short because somebody called in sick or something, we're gonna forgo this. the selectmen were very specific. They wanted somebody full-time.
That's not the impression I got before, but
Yeah, so
I'm
this is a.
glad you're, I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah, full-time, this is gonna be a full-time person doing traffic mitigation and traffic enforcement, writing tickets, stopping speeders, slowing cars down, all of these things. That's what this person, that's what their sole job will be. So, yes, we're hiring just a police officer through the civil service process, but we will be assigning just one person to do this job.
So it's kinda like
Thank you for that
backfilling
clarification.
whoever that
Yeah.
is.
Through the chair, and
Yes.
I had seen that we had taken a turn for the Treehouse Brewery, and I just wanna make sure. We've had, just this year alone, we've had numerous complaints from citizens, which, above and beyond what I've seen in the 3 years I've been on the board, about traffic issues. Brookfield Road for certain reasons. Brookfield Road has always been a problem with speeding over there, and neighbors have always come forward before the board about that. We've had some serious accidents over at Osgood Road and Brookfield Road. We've had some issues with some new businesses that have opened up on Brookfield Road. We also had a fatality, sadly enough, down on 169 where somebody was at their mailbox and they got hit. We just had another one over on Richardson's Corner Road, where somebody came into the corner just a tad hot and hit a poor person that was at their mailbox on a Saturday morning. The selectmen and the selectmen's office hear from the citizens all day, every day, about Center Depot Road. They hear about Nugget Hill Road, and the problem when we've talked to the chief, the previous chief, and is, I have 2 people on each shift. They are doing what they call, just general calls for service calls, I guess is what it's described as. And traffic enforcement is at the very back, on the very back burner. The selectmen, after hearing all the things from the citizen, the problems that we've had with some fatalities and serious injuries of pedestrians now, we feel that we were in support of the chief going for this person to be a traffic enforcement person. I guess the perfect model for this is Auburn, okay? A little bit bigger than us, and granted of deeper pockets, but anybody who travels Route 20 knows that if they go 50 or 55 miles an hour, coming up the hill from 290 up towards the old Lundgren Honda, it's a 50-50 chance that you're gonna end up getting a ticket. And there's a lot of areas like that in Auburn, so you slow down because they do enforcement. That's what we need to do. We have a large number of back roads here. People will draft you, just like NASCAR, if you're doing 30 or 35 even, in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. They will be on your bumper, and that's what we wanna stop. Okay, we can't have the citizens being injured, going to their mailbox. We can't have people getting whacked as they're backing out of their driveway because somebody is coming around a line of sight that's terrible. So we support this, and that's why the chief's here now.
Okay. And Chief, did I read somewhere in one of these packets, so this is a $55,000 plus benefits annual
Yeah,
salary? So
the
that's
start-
what will be in next year's?
Yes, sir. So in next year's budget, I'd be looking for $55,395.68,
Plus, yeah.
and plus benefits.
Yeah, plus benefits, okay. And a car.
Hard to do traffic enforcement on a bicycle, I would imagine.
Any other questions
Can
of
I
the
get a
chief?
horse?
Might work on Brookfield.
Any other questions of the chief? Any discussion of what's in front of us? We all have a copy? There being no discussion, I'll entertain a motion that we pass sorry, first time, what do we call this?
I would recommend, generally you do an advisory, I'm asking you if you'll do because it's bringing somebody on to actually do the reserve fund transfer
So that's the piece down below.
Yes, sir.
So I'll entertain a motion that we make the reserve fund transfer, no, I'll entertain, yeah, that we make the reserve fund transfer from, where's it coming from?
Reserve fund.
Reserve
To
fund,
reserve fund. Right.
to the police salaries account.
I'll make that motion in the amount of $23,683.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion on the motion now? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. It is approved.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I'll just give you the original, so you can sign that. It's down at the bottom.
Oh, okay, we don't,
Put this aside.
all right, so that one's done.
So while you're signing, if you'd like some good news.
Okay,
This is what we've collected from the detail monies.
oh, okay.
So, the first thing I did when I changed the detail billing policy. If you look on the last page, that's really the meat and potatoes of it, but, we changed the detail billing policy, and we've collected, certainly everything since I've been chief. We've collected everything since interim Chief Charette. And you see some of those other numbers on the bottom, 60 days, 90 days, some of it over a year old, from back when the previous chief. So we continue to do that and get that money, those monies back for the town. But they said for all of 16 and 17 is present and accounted for and back.
Congratulations.
Great job.
Peter Cooper would be proud.
We should have softened him up with this first.
I do believe in crossing out. Is there any other questions?
Actually, I have one, Robin, and I guess for the chief. Have we talked to XOM about potentially helping with the billing process and keeping track of all those details?
Have we talked to who?
Exxon,
Excellent.
I mean, given that we're gonna put in 10 miles of road, right, and pipe, and dig up the roads and cause all sorts of havoc in the town, I mean, I know they've given us some help with, some funding, but, I don't know that we thought about it in the water and sewer space, if we thought about the amount of,
The billing is gonna go through one source, even if it's a subcontractor, and it's all gonna be done electronically. That's what we're using the technology they would have so that we can keep better track of it. So I'm confident that especially with the admin person that I have now, who is excellent, that's not gonna be a problem.
thanks. Yeah, my
But
concern
we
would,
will definitely pay attention to that, because you're absolutely right, different contractors,
Right,
and
that's-
they had gotten confused before in the past processes of who actually owed the bill, so it never got billed. I think they have really worked hard to develop a system where they're gonna be tracking, and, just in time too. So, when I talk about the 10 miles of water line, it's not only Exxon, 8+ miles, we've got, about 3 miles up at Berry Corner Road,
Right.
and I don't know if you know, but we just received a grant to put in, the water line in Route 20.
Yep.
So that's also, so all of that is gonna start getting very busy, and I think it's gonna be helpful to the highway department and the police department to have this position in full force and somebody paying attention to it, so thank you.
Okay. All set? Next transfer request we got is for $7,000 to the municipal building custodian salary account.
Yes, sir. Last night, we went to the to the Board of Selectmen. Let me back up a little bit. Our custodian, Kirby here, took a position with Dudley Charlton School District. And his last day was yesterday. We need to replace him. The building commissioner has been doing additional duties above and beyond building commissioner, such as IT in the building and facilities, oversight. The board has been kind of working to try and take off some of those and do a little more streamlined. We see an opportunity here with Kirby leaving. He was at 30 hours, to make this position 40 hours, and then give this person kind of upgraded a little bit more from from just, doing the maintenance to actually being able to oversee some of the projects. So, for instance, if we're doing the rug project, they may go out and get the bid. The calls for, a furnace having a problem, this person was interested in that. We really don't have that person, and I think we really saw how vulnerable we are at this point with our systems, and someone else needs to learn them, and not have it just concentrated with the building commissioner that's not his job. So before you tonight, I'm asking to get to the end of the year. The range went up, so, this is what I would anticipate.
So there's 21,000 in there now. You wanna add another 7 to get to the end of the year?
Yes, sir, I think that's what
And
should
what,
work.
and what will the annual salary be? Is it double?
The range is, 21, I think 21 to 24.
21, okay.
From 17.
Any other questions of Robin on this particular issue? If not,
We're just trying to be
this-
more efficient,
this
so we're
isn't,
not
is this an,
hiring other staff, doing better what we have with the people we do. Because the person would already receiving benefits, so why not add the 10 hours to this person instead of putting another layer on?
is this also a reserve fund transfer, not an advisory?
Yes, sir. Since it's personal.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to transfer $7,000 into the municipal building custodian account. What else do I have to add to that? Nothing. Anybody make that motion?
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, any discussion? Any other questions? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no.
Thank you, we appreciate it. We've had,
You have the
people come in
original,
and take that position and then leave after a year or two, so we're hoping to really get someone that this is what they want for their career. And then create stability. Thank you.
next item on our agenda, although I don't think we can go there yet, right, is the revenue forecast for fiscal year 19. Do you want to explain what happened?
Our town accountant and I have been working on this. We're having regular finance committee meetings. We had planned on finalizing getting the reserve fund, the revenue forecast ready for you. But our town accountant had an emergency and was not able to come in today, so I don't have the packet that I wanted to have for you. So, if you're willing, I'd like to ask maybe in 2 weeks when you, during the budget season, you start having a meeting after the board of selectmen's meeting. I don't know when you're planning to have your next budget, your next meeting. You could schedule one in 2 weeks, or, but we do wanna get the budget period started. We'd like to get in front of you and start talking about our projections, and what we see. Certainly you heard today that, without the school numbers and knowing what they're gonna be coming in at, it makes it much more difficult for us to really forecast how much funding we'll have for departments, and compound that with, we get a governor's budget, but we don't really get the real numbers from the state aid, until much later, so, I think it'll be helpful to get that process started. We have a new finance director, so the process will be changing, so her and I are starting to figure out, how our roles will be and what she'll be doing, so, we'll be kind of working that through in front of you here at the stable as we move forward. So, if there's questions, and Mr. Chairman, I know you sent me a few questions about, stabilization and OPEB and that. If you could think about as members, and I know a lot of you are new, this is your first or second year, the questions that you have, things that you want to understand in the budget process, if you can start compiling those, we can start putting together a budget message which will answer those questions and bring information to you. So we wanna be as transparent as we can be in the budget process. That's always been one of our goals. To the point, I think we were giving you copies of every change that we made, and on the 17th budget, I think the finance committee said, okay, stop printing them. So we wanna make sure you have the information you need to make good recommendations to the town meeting, so.
One thing, and I forget who manages our website, but do you know, you can't get the budget on the website. I tried to go to the town budget, and you click on it, and it just does nothing. First, find it.
It's not on the finance committee page, or
No,
you,
no, you have to go
Or
to,
the town hall
it
page?
says, other things you want to know, and then it's an alphabetical listing, okay? And you go to B, and you go to budget, you click on that, and you think you're gonna get the town budget,
and you don't.
and you don't.
Okay, I will
It just-
absolutely look at that.
If,
That's not
if nothing else, the minutes, whatever, at least the budget should be on the website for any interested citizen.
Yep, I agree. Thought it was there.
All right, I'm gonna leave it up to Jerry to call the next meeting, I won't take that upon myself. Anybody?
Is there any questions or information that you want me to get as we're getting ready for the budget season? I mean, we have a show-ready can that we'll be preparing for you, but. Okay.
Do you have a way to manage and estimate what the school committee might reveal to you?
Well, in our meetings at this point, they have talked about the 5.7 million, in the joint meetings that we've had with them as an overall number, for the district. And I think, was that a 6% increase? in their
5.9.
5.9.
They want 5.9 the first year, 3 and 3 for the next 2 years. So the way I'm reading it, it would be an override, let's say it was just that way. It'd be an override the first year of $1,444,000. And the next year, an override of about $780,000, and the third year, about $820,000. So do you do it in 3 steps each year? But those are the numbers that, how it works out. And we don't even know if Dudley, that was the other that's what I meant to ask him. What happens if we do it and Dudley doesn't?
Can't give them the money. District can't take it. The district charter says it has to be
Has to be,
based upon the student population, so you can't give $1 to them and Dudley say, I can't afford the $1, they have to give it back.
yeah.
So it's sort of an all or nothing increase, in terms of,
So
they,
you wouldn't appropriate it.
yeah, right.
Right.
The override you would never actually put it into the tax base
The
because,
authorization would be there,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't utilize it.
So do you believe Rich's idea was to have that override sometime in April, and if it doesn't pass, it sounded like he would then wanted another question on the May ballot?
He
Couldn't-
can't, there
couldn't
won't be
do it.
enough time.
Well,
He has
that's-
to have 35 days ahead,
Yeah.
so I don't know when he thinks they might do that.
Oh, he said at the end of the fiscal, if you go to June,
He
is
wouldn't have
there
enough
time?
time for June.
He said the end
So
of
it
the
would have to
fiscal
be
year.
after the town
So it'll
meeting,
be, yeah,
okay? Which
So
means
there'd
what,
be
another
3.
special town meeting?
That means that we could go to town meeting with a contingent budget. So what they could do is, so if they go to ballot and it doesn't pass, then we go to May town meeting, and then they put something together that says, here's the number, that we think everybody can afford, and is saying yes, but we can't live with that, so here's the budget number that we really need, and here's the budget. So we could do a vote which would say, this is what they get in the budget motion, we could say this is what they get. And then if the override, passes, then appropriate this much more into the budget. So you could do it that way, and, because it doesn't matter if the ballot question or the authorization at town meeting comes first or second.
Hmm.
It can go either way.
Yeah.
So that's the only way I can see that they would able
Yeah,
to.
it's his timing just seemed too close together for that to work.
But I think he's right, I think that they could come back in June,
Yeah.
they'd have enough time.
So what would be the purpose of having a special town meeting in April then?
We would have no numbers, and they wouldn't have to give 2 budgets, they would be able to just then
Right.
Appropriate what it is that
Then,
they
yeah.
need and plan.
One shot.
Because you also have to remember,
Yeah.
for them to be able, especially with staffing issues, if they're gonna start making cuts or whatever they're doing, it's helpful to know that ahead of time.
I think is, if they can't do a second round on the May election, then why go through the expense of an April? Of a special town meeting?
No, because it's just the opposite. They're saying do April 1st, late he may have even said late March, early April, but I thought it was April. And with the May meeting in around the 16th, you don't have time there,
Right.
right? Yeah, it really doesn't make sense why putting it off. And if they're gonna make a decision on February 14th, why do they gotta wait they gotta wait 35 days, you're right, for the ballot.
Right.
So it's gotta minimum 35 days after that meeting.
End of March.
And that's if we all sign off on whatever they decide at that meeting. Yeah, they're cutting this one really close. And just so everybody knows, these special elections, what does it cost us? $7,000 every time we hold a special election. All right? That's money out of our pockets.
Should be paid for by the district, right, if they request it.
I just had that conversation with Rich, and he asked me, because I asked him, and he says, well, what do we generally do? I said, if the money's from district.
Okay.
And they build that into the,
Mm-hmm.
So, it looks like it's gonna be a lot of unknowns,
Mhm.
so we'll be giving you drafts, and please, I wanna set your expectations now. What you see at the beginning of this process may not be what you see at the end of the process, but as we get more, better information, we'll make updates and changes. So each time we come in, your numbers will never be the same at each meeting. So. But, the good news is that the fire department is working, the 9 extra people there, more revenue is coming in, and we'll give you a presentation on that. And we do have quite a bit of growth coming, so
Mhm.
that's been helpful too.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's all I have.
Good.
Thank you.
Anybody got anything else they'd like to bring up today? There being nothing, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day, Thanksgiving.
Yes, yes,
I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving, but please have a nice Christmas.
yes.
Happy New
Merry
Year.
Christmas to all. Did you get all that, Sherry?
I did. Where are the signed, minutes?
Right here.
You want,
So you got a copy of each one of them.
there's a
I
copy.
got those.
All right, there's the originals.
And the meeting minutes that were signed? are
They're in
where?
that pile.
Oh, I need the meeting
Yeah,
minutes.
they're next to it.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you very much.
This is coming with the school. I expect a little bit more info tonight. I wish they, watch out, bring that off.
Yeah. They're not helping us. Cut that window too close.